Hey guys, Mike here, and I can't say, oh boy, what a day in the market, because it was a sleeper until the last 15 minutes, but we did set a new all-time high on SPY, so we can check SPX, SPY, and what are we waiting on next? Once again, the Qs. God, we've seen this movie before, hadn't we? And so we'll get into those charts. We'll also talk about some stocks to watch out for, which maybe finally could be on the move as well, and two that are just, they're priced to perfection. They got earnings coming up, and they better hang the moon, baby, okay? And so we'll talk about those. We did have President Trump speak today at the World Economic Forum. I don't know about you, but I was stunned that the market stayed as quiet as it did. It moved up a little bit, but the algos just were completely quiet. Why? I guess because we set a new all-time high yesterday on SPX, and we had a huge move up over the last 7 days, and it kept rejecting off that dark pool level like crazy multiple times. You know, but once we got above it, it set that as support, which we'll look at. But a couple of things he said was, one, Canada can join as a state because that's the only way they're going to avoid tariffs. He finds it very difficult to work with them, so Canadians better buckle up. Probably going to be a rough time for you guys coming up here. Second of all, he wants $1 trillion out of the Saudis, I believe it is. And he wants oil prices down. That would be a good thing. Obviously, AI is going to be a big thing, big investment, a lot of bankers there. So big investment into that. That's why you saw a lot of those stocks just mooning again, anything to do with infrastructure when it comes to the data centers, you know, what nuclear is another one. And so that was another thing he talked about. Really nothing out of the ordinary we hadn't heard before. You know, wants to be the AI and crypto kings and stuff like that of the world. So that was a big one. And then, of course, trying to work with Mexico, sign an executive order, basically allowing no illegals in. And so that's another thing. And, you know, if somebody asked me in the comments, which I'm going to talk about in Saturday's video, put your questions in there for Saturday's video that you got, and saying, like, you know, what are some sectors or stocks that, you know, President Trump's administration and policies can affect the most, whether it be up or down. And so, you know, we'll talk about it in Saturday's video. Put in the comments, well, which ones you think, and put what you think is going to be pushing them up or pushing them down. Be another thing to look at. So we'll look at that as well. We'll also talk about market structure a little bit in Saturday's videos. I was getting questions about that when I was saying, need to see where we're going to set a higher low, okay? And so we'll talk about that, and I'll show you what I'm talking about and why I'm saying that, because I'll say it again today. But I will talk about this right here. This is interesting before we get in the charts. Total cost of regulation, because he's gonna cut, I believe it's 10 regulations for every one regulation they pass, okay? And this just shows like the cost of it, what percentage of GDP by year, and it's quite a bit. And we know one thing, I mean, we know we got way too many regulations on the book because they never take anything off the book, right? I mean, I know in California I always hear the joke, to put a solar panel on your house takes like 6 to 10 years, some crazy mess. And so, you know, just there is way too many regulations, and I'm a believer in good regulations, just not over regulations, okay? And the other one was the U.S. Small Business Optimism Index, which he did mention at that speech and everything. And you can see the biggest 2-month increase on record as far as optimism. So, of course, what index would this really push for the most would be IWM, small caps, right? So that's another thing to look at on this one. But optimism in there because of the deregulations. And he also said we're going to get the largest tax cuts and all that good stuff. And if you build your stuff here, you get, I think it's either 10 or 15% tax rate, but you got to build it here. That's the way it is. So, you know, we'll see what happens, see what gets passed and all that fun stuff. Now, looking at SPY, here's the last 15 minutes. This is what made everything green. SPY was pretty much green all day. Qs wasn't, and neither was IWM, but then the last 15 minutes just shoved everything into the green. The Dow was actually performing pretty much better than anything. This was that dark pool level we talked about, got rejected multiple times yesterday, multiple times today, but finally broke through. And so now, if we do come back down, which we will at some point in time to set the higher low, watch for this, see if it becomes support, because we rejected off of it so many times, and it was a dark pool level, a big dark pool level. From the previous time we had set all-time highs and started to sell off right there. So, you know, looking at this, pulling out on the daily chart right here, obviously we'll pull up and see what levels we can go to, because now you're in price discovery. Okay, we've been here before. And so if we continue this push up, 618.09 is going to be the first level to look at. And so, and that's not that, I know it seems like a lot, but that's not. It's like 1.4% up. And so that's not a big move up. 625 and then around 629 right there, closer to 630. So that's what you're looking at on the upside. To the downside, I would just look and see if, you know, the 0.79 fib is a good spot. along with support right there to see if that's going to be where we stop for the higher low when we do finally start. And I'm going to show you what happens last time we come to the higher high. But you may think with this crazy move up we'd be overbought. Nope, not even close. Not even close. Remember this one? When we came up like this, looks pretty dang similar, right? But you see how we came back down, we set a higher low, and then continue to move on. That's what I'm talking about, okay? And so that's how the market moves. And again, I'll talk about this in way more detail on Saturday for you guys. But this is the all-time high. We came up, couldn't make it through, busted through, turned it into support, right? And then came back up, touched it again, and then took off from there. And so, let's see if we see something like that or not. Again, we got FOMC coming up next week, and we got mega cap earnings. And so I know everybody thinks like everybody's going to the moon, and it definitely could do that. But again, a lot of gaps down below, a lot of big earnings coming out, and with FOMC. And so if they don't act dovish and they act hawkish as can be, well, which I don't think they will, I'd be surprised if they did, but then that obviously could create issues. Now, there's the Qs, last 15 minutes, finally pushing into the green. It was red all day. It was down like 0.5% and all that good stuff. It's behind, right? Hadn't set a new all-time high. So now we get to see, because that's what happened last time. Remember, the SPY set it, the SPX set it, and then we were lagging because of who? The Mag 7, Mag 8 stocks, right? That was the problem. And so in order for this to push up, you're going to need those to start participating because they make up almost half the QQQ. Keep that in mind. And when you look at this, same thing. It was the all-time high, reject, came above, turned in support, and took off, right? And so we'll see if that's going to be something very similar that we see, or do we get to pull down first, maybe fill one of those gaps. IWM did exactly what we talked about yesterday, and I'm happy to see it. Hopefully it can hold. Came back down, retested that 226 area right there, held and bounced, okay? And so that was a big thing for this one, because remember, right above, what do we got? We got the 50 moving average up here. We got a trend line. We got the rest of the daily fair value gap to mitigate. And so, and again, this is another one that's not overbought or anything. And it's moved different than the SPY, okay? It's come up, consolidated sideways. It's come up and it's consolidated since, I believe, Tuesday right here. So it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And the reason why it's consolidating, and that's actually a lot more healthy than just, going to the moon, is because of the 10-year yield. What is happening here? You can see it stair-stepping up very quietly since the 20th, just stair-stepping, and now it's at a level, which as you can see to the left, was support for a minute, but mostly has been resistance in the past. And so this is a big one to watch, is just turn this into support again at 4.6-ish, or do we break back down, start heading back down? Okay, that is key. And again, like I said, if this starts to rally, IWM is going to stall. That's what's happened, okay, because it's up at a very high level. That's why 4.6 is not nothing to sneeze at. So again, we'll see, because the unemployment claims came in right as expected, really about, I think it was 4,000 less, and so no big deal. We just haven't had any major economic data today. We do have some coming out tomorrow morning, which could affect yields for sure, and so we'll have to see what happens there, and I think that's why we're sitting on that level. And so if the news comes out super, like way over, super hot or whatever it is, then yields are going to spike. If it comes in under, then of course, or better off, then you see yields drop, then IWM is going to go, right? And that's why it come down and tested that level right there. But again, to the upside, you do have those fair value gaps. It could absolutely be attractive, but I think it's all going to depend on this data tomorrow, which we'll talk about at the end. Now, looking over here at Tesla real quick. One thing you have going on with Tesla right now, obviously here's your 21 EMA. It has held like the last 3 times now. 0.5 fit right below it. Those two major levels between 410, 414. It keeps vacillating between them. If it drops below that, you got your golden pocket. 50 moving average is going to be great support for it. I believe that's close to like 400, 405. Again, above that, you go into this fib right here, 427. We start to move, and then you go into that shade area right there around 438 where that starts. And that's just what's going on with Tesla, because there was nothing going on in the options market for Tesla today, and that's why it wasn't moving. Now, Sofi, one of the 2 stocks that is priced for perfection, okay? You can see right here, it set a new 52-week high. You can see on the hourly how overbought it got before it finally took some kind of breather. Now it's heading back up right there. And so this one right here is reporting earnings on Monday. And so you got one more day to see how this moves right here. Don't worry about that. That is not bearish divergence right there. Too small of a time frame as far as I'm concerned. But again, Monday they report. That's what I've been told. Again, I don't have the calendar. I'll put it out tomorrow for members, and then for you guys on Sunday to the public. But they should be reporting Monday, and they just got to hang the moon. That's the way it's got to be, because this thing has such a big move up. And if they do hang the moon, again, that's when you start putting the 20s the $20, $22, all that stuff into play, okay? And if not, we'll see how the market's going to react. Palantir is another one, right? They're going to report a couple weeks from now. And when you look at it, continue to move up today. Like I said, my trader friends are like, nope, not shorting that. It's too strong. And it continues to grind up right there towards that 0.79 fib around 80.21, because I didn't see any news today that would push it up. And it was green all day long. And we pull out on a daily, you can see, I mean, this thing right here, nowhere near overbought either, not even close. You can see right there, though, when you look at these RSIs, even though you get overbought, look how this thing just grinded up as the RSI started falling down. It's really on the weekly when you get these kind of stocks that are just going parabolic. And again, look how long it stayed overbought on the weekly. I mean, for like 6 weeks, right? Until you finally got a pullback. And so again, this is another one. When it comes to earnings, it's priced for perfection. So we'll see if that's going to push it to 100 if it don't get there before earnings, or finally get a major pullback. So that's what you're looking for on Palantir right here. Now, when you look at Datadog, this is one to put on your watch list. I wouldn't buy this thing until it gets above the 50 and the RSI gets above the 50 area right there, and you get that full MACD cross on the daily right there, okay? It's starting to turn. It's held the 50 Fibonacci. It's held this area right here, which has been resistance for quite a while. It's where it bounced. But you need to see, because they don't have earnings, I think it's for like a few weeks though. And so you worry about just grinding sideways. But again, do what you want to do. With the safer bet, just see if this thing crosses above the 50 moving average right there. Yeah, they don't report until February 13th. And so keep an eye, as this is a cybersecurity stock. Cybersecurity stock's been doing pretty well. Software stocks, all that fun stuff. And we'll see if this one's going to get some love. Again, I don't think I've ever played this one before. I might have in the past. I'm sure I have. But again, just looking at this one to see if it gets above 50 and gets the momentum going. You can use stochastic as well. And again, you can see that momentum. You look over in the past, how it's looked. That's what you want to see from the real momentum. But again, if that gets above 50 and starts grinding up, that means we passed the 50 moving average. But you can see on there, we've rejected off that 50 moving average multiple times and that fib. So that's why I would say just put it on your watch list, okay? Now, looking at Nike, again, we talked about this. This one broke above the year-to-date anchor VWAP, then broke above that trend line, rejected right there at that resistance, came back down, tested the year-to-date anchor VWAP, and held it, okay? And so this is another one. I was sitting there and say, if it gets above that, it's going around 75 right there. It loves to play around with these VWAPs, a lot of them from earnings, and then the rest of them for year-to-date anchor VWAP. And you can see in the past, when it's broke above this level, it'll come up and reject off that VWAP right there. And then if you go back, you can see it. I mean, that's just the way it is. And so that's what I said. If you're going to touch Nike, it's going to be above that year-to-date anchor VWAP, which it finally got above. Okay, and so it could get some movement. This company has a lot of issues. I would not do this as an investment. Do it if you want to, but as far as like trading, yes. You know, if it gets above there, you can finally see some love, but it's got a lot of problems as a company, man. Now, looking over here at China stocks, why am I bringing them up? See some that are green, and again, JD, like I said the other day, watch out for that one. Probably getting ready to sell down. That's what it's doing. But others are green. But the one thing about this one is, if it can get moving, the short interest is huge. Okay, this is the FXI China ETF. You see the short interest? I mean, that is like off the charts. This thing goes back to 2008, and you can just see it. And some shorts are starting to cover, and as they start to cover, this has been moving up. Normally in the past, when you see like major covering, like here, here, and here, that's when you finally get these moves up. Doesn't mean they don't have problems and all that stuff. But remember, as we say in America, the economy is not the market is not the economy. Well, I guess the same thing can apply to China, because you saw that huge rally that completely faded out. But you saw a fast rally, and that was shorts getting squeezed like crazy. And so all it takes is them to come out and say, we're going to do this, that, and the other. And the shorts start covering, and boom, market starts going. Okay, so that's why, again, I don't believe in owning these at all. Trading them, yes, not owning them. Okay, but do what you want to do. My job is to bring it to you and inform you. Now, looking over here, earnings tomorrow, you got Verizon, American Express. So again, American Express is going to tell us how the consumers are doing. And then there's an energy stock, because energy has been going off to the moon right now. But we do have some data tomorrow to watch out for in the morning. You have flash manufacturing PMI, flash services PMI, existing home sales, revised University of Michigan consumer sentiment. All this data comes out after the opening bell. Okay, so be careful there. So anyway, put your questions at the bottom for Saturday's video. Hit that like and subscribe button if you don't mind. I really appreciate that, guys. Think about signing up for the membership. That's the McDonald's combo, and that's everything you get with it. And I will see you guys tomorrow.